Hello, and welcome back to the Coaching Revolution podcast. Before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to take a moment to remind you that on May 30th, it's coming up in a few weeks, I'm hosting a free community event, and you're invited. It's called The 6 Steps to Navigating Client Resistance. And during our 90 minutes together, we'll take a look at how we as practitioners can support our clients to move out of overwhelm, procrastination, confusion, negativity, and more. It's a great opportunity to come together in community with other transformation nerds, to learn a lot, and also to take a peek under the hood at some of your own resistance and the ways that you've been holding yourself back from creating what you want. I'll drop the link for the masterclass in the show notes, and I would be honored to have you join us. Now, this 90-minute masterclass is also a preview for the intensive 4-week Navigating Client Resistance Technique training coming up in June. I only teach this deep dive training once every couple of years, and it is very powerful as well as a student favorite. In the 4-week Navigating Client Resistance Technique, you get extensive training and coaching from me to be able to support your clients with so many of their obstacles. The entire 4 weeks is also a masterclass in human behavior. So I'll also drop the link for that in the show notes as well. Now, for our podcast episode today, I thought it would be fun and valuable to share with you a little bit about how I prepare for my sessions with my clients, because the ways that I prepare are probably a little bit different than what you might think. And the reason why I wanted to take a look at this topic for a podcast episode is because my students in the Sacred Depths Transformational Practitioner training often ask me what I do to prepare, especially because my clients always feel that I'm incredibly prepared for our sessions, right? And this is how you want to be. You want to be prepared and have your clients feel that you're very prepared. So first, let me share what I generally don't do to prepare for my one-on-one client sessions. I've heard of coaches and other transformational practitioners who spend a lot of time and energy preparing for their one-on-one sessions. They review notes that they've taken in their previous sessions over and over again. They maybe do a lot of research in anticipation of a one-on-one session with a client, or put together a whole new set of notes that they want to make sure they get to in the session, etc. Now, while this might work for some practitioners and their clients really, really well, and I'm not knocking this type of preparing at all, because I know that it does work for some people, it doesn't work for me. For one thing, it wouldn't be sustainable for me in terms of my time and energy, right? It's putting in a lot of time and energy and effort before sessions. But for another thing, all of that reviewing and that kind of preparing for me would actually take me away from being in my full presence as I step into my client sessions. That type of preparing and reviewing and more reviewing would force me to be too focused on needing to make something happen for my client, instead of being focused on coming together with my client, not only our minds, but our bodies and our hearts, and to really come together to co-create exactly what my client needs in that session. Of course, sometimes I might do some reviewing or a little bit of thinking beforehand. And in fact, I think about my clients a lot in between sessions and what they need, and new ideas for them. But it's not that kind of rigorous reviewing, researching, etc. And here's another thing that I don't do, and this might sound surprising, but I generally don't take many notes at all during my client sessions unless I'm working with a client on a bigger, more detailed strategy or on developing a vision. In those cases, the notes that I'm taking are on a shared Google document with my client. Most of my client sessions are not in front of the computer screen, or, looking at things. And actually, I'll share with you, while I do some of my one-on-one sessions on Zoom, for the most part, I am old-fashioned and I still, most of the time, meet my one-on-one clients on the phone. So most of my clients aren't in front of the computer screen or looking at documents, but for the sessions that do require it, as I said, when we're doing bigger strategy or vision, I love having Google Docs and being able to share a document with a client and then create that document together. The Google document also saves a ton of time from taking paper and pencil notes and then typing them up to send to a client. Now, to be fair, one of the reasons I don't take notes is because I do have a pretty good memory for details that my clients share with me, even though sometimes I can't remember what I had for lunch that day. And you may not have a memory that's like mine, and it might be really valuable for you to take notes. So I'm not suggesting not to take notes. What I will say about it, though, is that part of my being able to recall so much of what my clients share with me in our sessions is because of how open and present I am during sessions. And for me, part of that is also not being distracted by taking notes. So, this idea of being open and present is actually the first and most important thing that I want to share with you today around how I do prepare for my client sessions. It's about how I prepare energetically for my sessions. So let's take a look at that first. And then after that, we'll talk about some practical things that I do to prepare for my sessions. Now, if you've been hanging around me for some time or you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I teach over and over and in so many different ways and different nuances the following idea. In order to be a top-notch coach or transformational practitioner who's really able to support clients in the most powerful of ways, it's not only stellar skills and techniques that you need. Of course, world-class skills and techniques are incredibly important. But the truth is that even the most potent coaching and transformational techniques in the world are going to fall flat or fall short if the practitioner leading them isn't embodying what I call aligned and powerful energetics. Your energetics are the ideas, the beliefs, and the feelings that you bring to your client sessions. And aligned and powerful energetics mean that you, the practitioner, are showing up for your client sessions in certain ways, some specific ways. And I'm going to share what some of those ways are with you right now. So, aligned and powerful energetics include truly and deeply knowing that your clients are whole and complete exactly as they are, and also knowing that you, the practitioner, are whole and complete exactly as you are. Aligned and powerful energetics include trusting your clients and also trusting yourself, as well as trusting the session and the process that you're leading your clients through. Aligned and powerful energetics include understanding that it's actually not your job to fix your clients. And to take it even a step further, in fact, your client doesn't need to be fixed because, as I said earlier, they're whole and complete. Aligned and powerful energetics include not taking over responsibility for your client and their forward movement. It includes not worrying that you're not good enough or not smart enough or not magical enough. And aligned and powerful energetics also include having compassion and love for your clients' resistances and blocks and shadows, instead of freaking out when a client shows up with resistance or blocks or shadows. So these are just a few examples of the aligned and powerful energetics of a coach and a transformational practitioner. And there are dozens more. And for those of you listening who have participated in Sacred Depths, you know that in Sacred Depths, as we learn each of the coaching skills and techniques in the training, we also go deep, deep into supporting each practitioner in the training to embody these aligned and powerful energetics. And we do this, and I take so much time on this throughout the training so that you can use any of the tools that you have in your transformational toolbox and use them with confidence, with mastery, with inspiration, and with full honoring of yourself and your client. Now, of course, the work it takes to embody these kinds of energetics isn't overnight work. It is deep belief work and fear work and working with shadow and so much more. And the reason why it takes work is because when our energetics are misaligned, it's usually because they're connected to so many of our core fears and our unhelpful beliefs, our not good enoughness, our distrust of others, etc. Now, back to how I prepare for my client sessions. That wasn't just a tangent as I've been talking about energetics. I wanted to kind of give you some context in order to say that in addition to doing deep work on your own energetics as a practitioner, I do have a simple practice that I do before each and every one of my client sessions. And also, I do the same practice before every class and retreat that I lead. And this practice really helps me shift into those aligned energetics that we've been talking about. So here's what the practice is. I take first a minute or two before each session. And really, it doesn't have to take more than a minute or two. I take a minute or two to first get grounded, to connect to what I'd call my highest self. And what I mean by that is the part of me that has a higher perspective, that has a bigger perspective than my ego with all of its fears and its limiting beliefs. And as I get grounded and connect to my highest self, I also connect in with spirit. And from that place, I make requests of my highest self and spirit. It's a prayer of sorts that I say out loud. And while the words may vary a little bit from session to session, it usually sounds like a version of the following. Dear Spirit, help me to remember that this client session is not about me. Help me to remember that I don't need to sound smart or to know everything or to be amazing, and that I don't need to perform in any way. Help me to remember that my job here in this client session is to show up as my authentic self with my heart and all my love, and to hold space for the beautiful human in front of me, to hold space for their joy, for their sorrow, for their celebration, and for their progress. Help me to remember that I am enough and that my client is also enough, and that I don't need to over try or over give. I simply need to commit to being fully present. Dear Spirit, please allow this session to be another step on the sacred path of my client's evolution. And that's it. That's what I say. And hopefully, dear listener, as you've been taking in that little prayer that I say before sessions, you can start to see for yourself how helpful it can be. I say the words, but I don't only say the words. As I say them, I create the space to feel the words inside of me, to really embody the prayer and what I'm saying. And this makes all the difference for me. It helps me open up and be present and not worry if I'm good enough or not good enough, any of the things. And then I step into my client session or my group session, and I do incredible things with my clients. So I'm sharing this personal practice with you in the hopes that it reminds you that you too can bring powerful, trusting, brilliant presence and energy to all of your client work. Okay, so again, in my opinion, the piece that I just shared with you is the most important thing that I do to prepare for my one-on-one client sessions, because those energetics are bar none. But that being said, there are a few other more practical things that I do to prepare for client sessions, and I want to share some of those with you as well. So number one, For my private clients, we have what I call a session prep form that I send them. They get it when they sign up for me. It's part of their welcome packet. And it is a form with usually about 5 questions that my client is going to fill out in advance of each one of our one-on-one sessions. And this prep form is an incredible tool that helps me get caught up with what's been going on with my client in between sessions. And of course, oftentimes I'm caught up a bit because we've maybe been emailing in between sessions as well. But this prep form is much more comprehensive. It helps me really know where my client is at, what's going on for them, what have they been doing that's been working, what hasn't been working, where their heart and soul and mindset are at, and also what they want to be working on for our session. The session prep form is also a great tool for my clients to be able to start paving their energy and their intentions and to get more clarity for what they want to receive from our session time together. Now, there's so much that goes into these session prep forms. I personalize them for each of my clients, and we could do a whole podcast episode just on this. It is such an important and valuable tool. And in fact, in the Sacred Depths Transformational Practitioner training, we go over step by step how to craft a client prep form that really will work for your ideal clients and help make your sessions even more deep and productive. But for now, what I want to share more about these client session prep forms is that for my clients who do fill them out, because not everybody does, right? But for my clients that do fill these out, I prepare for our sessions by reading them and reading them thoroughly, not quick on the slide, but really taking the time. And I like to invite my clients to send them to me 48 hours in advance of a session, if possible. And then I try to get to read them as soon as possible. And I really then take all of that into my next 48 hours before my client session to marinate on it, to think about it during my walks. Oftentimes I have inspired ideas come through in the shower, but I really love these session prep forms. The other thing that I want to share about preparing for client sessions, and this is what I'm about to say next, is so obvious, and yet it is also often very overlooked. I really want to bring our attention to it because it's so important. Another way to prepare for client sessions, a vital way, is to take care of your body. That might sound weird. I'll explain what I mean by that. In order for us to show up and be our best at our client sessions, in order for us to be at the top of our games intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, we need to take care of our bodies, right? We need to make sure that we are well nourished, right? That we've eaten if we need to eat beforehand. We want to make sure that we're well hydrated, so that we don't get thirsty during sessions and actually I've been told. I'm not, a medical provider, obviously. This is hearsay, but it is true. I've tested it on myself. It's true. The more that if you drink a little bit more in the mornings, get at least 2-3 glasses of water in, it helps your blood sugar stay balanced for the day. So important, right? And it's part of those energetics that we spoke about before, right? Taking care of our bodies. So make sure that you eat if you're going to eat. Make sure that you drink and you're hydrated. Make sure you go to the bathroom before a client session so that's not distracting to you during a session. Make sure to be ongoing taking care of your nervous system so that you can show up as regulated as possible for your client sessions. At some point, I want to do a whole episode just on this, on how we as practitioners can regulate our nervous system ongoing so that we show up regulated for our clients. And then in addition to that, don't do things that are going to activate your nervous system right before client sessions. So in other words, maybe don't check email right before a session, especially if you see one come in that you have a sense is going to upset you. Maybe don't check voicemails the minute or two before client sessions, right? Take care of yourself and your body so that you can show up as your best. Okay, so to review the 3 things that we covered today, my 3 favorite ways to prepare for client sessions, again, is not to over review and over research and all the things. It's three kind of simple things, simple but not simple. Number 1, really get grounded and in the right energetics, the aligned and powerful energetics. And in addition to just doing my ongoing inner work, specifically, I do that before a client session by saying that prayer that I shared with you. And if that really spoke to you, I invite you to either use that prayer or write your own. The second thing that I do is I review prep forms that my clients are sending me in advance of the session, in order to get really up to date with them, not just in terms of what they've done, but where their heart set is at, their mindset, their soul set. And then the third thing I do to prepare is really I am mindful and taking care of my body. I'm making sure that I am nourished and hydrated and that my nervous system is taken care of so that I can show up fully present. All right, before we wrap for today, I just want to remind you again of the 90-minute community masterclass that I am going to be hosting on May 30th, the 6 steps to navigating client resistance, and also the 4-week deep dive training on the client resistance technique. I'm going to drop both of those links in the show notes. If you haven't yet subscribed to this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. And also, would you do me a favor and share this podcast with a friend? Or even better yet, with a group of friends? I really want this information to be in the hands, the hearts, and the minds of as many coaches, therapists, practitioners, and team leaders who can use it to better help others and themselves. So for today, I'm saying goodbye, and I'll see you next time.